Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Console Corner Power Rankings. As always, I'm your host, Blue, and let's get right into it. Number 1 this week, for the third time in a row, is Elevate on the PS4 North American side of things. And when you want to talk about dominance, one name from Elevate comes to mind, and that is Emmett Payne. He uses the PlayStation gamer tag Kyle Conrad. And this guy has just been insane. They've played in week 1 and week 2. They 2-0'd their opponents both times. And it's just been complete blowouts behind the back and the carrying of Kyle Conrad. This man has died one time. Now, credit to Shu for the healing and for the rest of the team, for the peel and for the protection. But Emmett Payne has died one time in 4 games in the PCL. This is supposed to showcase the best teams on Paladin's console in their region on a consistent base. And this man is just consistently staying alive. More interesting, he's playing frontline champions more than he is his DPS champ pool. So this is just incredible work with Emmett Payne. Elevate showing their dominance. He is still the number one. Elevate is still the number 1 team. He had a 22 KD in week 1. He's got a 16.67 in week 2. He's got a 38.67 KD overall. That's just insane. Elevate showing dominance, pure dominance. At number 2 again for the 3rd week straight is Flashpoint. And when it comes to this team, I can't really pick out one person that has been doing most of the work. Storm Avatar, one of the league leaders in assists, so he's always alive. He's always putting the heals on his teammates, able to get those assists, able to contribute to the team fights. Prosper Logic, just being able to dump the damage in. Good Lad, who is just spectacular on those flanks and those flex pool, their flex champs that they need him to run. It's just incredible. Harvey, probably the best main tank on console right now. The Legacy, who had over 75% of the team's total shielding in week 1. They beat YCTG 2-0, 4-1 both games, no contest. Not that big of an opponent in YCTG as of lately. They have been falling off, but Flashpoint just showing how dominant they are and continuing to show that. At number 3 is Vex Gaming. They could potentially make the run to number 2 in the power rankings. This team has just been doing spectacular. They beat Zimmerframe this week. Zimmerframe moving up in the power rankings themselves over the past 2 weeks. They beat OTP in a 2-0 set, and now here they are losing to Vex. Hopefully they were of course, trying to win the set, but hopefully being able to come out with one map against Vex would have been a big improvement for Zimmerframe. I know they made some substitution spots, but so did Vex this week. Narc did not play, so Yui stepped in. And, just talking about Yui here for a second, he just did amazing for the team. 295 KD. He had 12 overall kills, only died about 7 times, 26 assists. He put in a lot of damage, almost 100,000 shielding within the 2 games as well. So Yui really stepped up from that sub position. Vexed is your number 3 team in the power rankings. At number 4 is Onslaught. They have slowly climbed their way back up. They were at number 6 in the preseason power rankings for the PCL. They were at number 5 after week 1 of play, and now here they are after week 2. They are at number 4. They have moved back into that top 4 position after beating Happy Battle Cats when they moved up in tiers as a team themselves. And here they are beating Vampire Lord 2-0. So that's a big ups to them. Vampire Lord, or as they are now known as the Baldy Bunch, was supposedly going to be the front runner to compete with Onslaught. That looks to be like it's going to be Kirsty's hands at the moment, but they took care of Vampire Lord, or the Baldy Bunch, with ease this week. And Wonderful been playing a lot of Saris as of lately, and he's got a 4.87 KD on that, 5.17 for this week alone, 135,000 damage on the this week. So, he's been just flexing on and off as he usually does. and just putting up high DPS numbers. He's got about 257,500 damage overall for the season. We're only 2 weeks in, so I'll be looking forward to seeing how much more he can do on the DPS side of things with Onslaught moving up in the power rankings. At number 5 is Oni Channers. They climbed a long way this week as well, but they are dominating in their region. They haven't faced Elevate yet. That will be next week, so that will be a matchup that I'm waiting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing how well they can do against Elevate. They 2-0 game over. They 2-0 warm up, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they will match up against Elevate. They beat them in the qualifiers, and then they lost to them in the qualifiers, so I'm looking to see what happens here. And I really think the big difference with them was moving Tommy Jet to the pure frontline position. He is a great DPS player, but Swiper moving to North America, put Swiper in that damage role. Don't allow him to flex. Don't put too much pressure on him. Just let him do his thing on the deeps and put Tommy Jet on the front line, who was a great flex as well. So at number 6 is Kirsty's Hands. They've been playing spectacular through the season so far and qualifiers as well, building themselves a resume, strength of schedule. That is basically what they are doing, just knocking down every opponent that gets in their way here, besides Onslaught at the moment. But however, Happy Battle Cats goes up against them here in week 2, and they take them to a game 3. Happy Battle Cats were able to win game 2. So I think that's a big blow to Kirsty's Hands, considering HBC is the 4th place team of these Xbox NA teams in the league. But Kirsty's Hands, all of them playing great. Kowalek's a great main tank right now. GC playing spectacular on the support. Bishop on the DPS. But I really got to hand it to their backbone of the team right now, and that's Dovahkiin. He's 2nd in the PCL for most kills with 72. He's been putting up big numbers as well. He had over 220,000 damage in week 1 total, and then he even upped it this time, and he went over 294,000 in week 2. And the same with the shielding as well. He had over 100,500 on week 1, and then he's maxing out 131,000 in week 2. And he's rocking with a 3.06 KD right now, highest on his team, one of the highest on Xbox, one of the highest in the league overall. So Dovahkiin really the backbone of that team right now. They got taken to game 3 by Happy Battle Cats. Drops them down in the power rankings a little bit, but not too much. I still think they're a really strong team on Xbox. At number 7 is Cyclone, and they've been slowly dropping in the power rankings. They showed strong effort against Flashpoint in week 1 in their first game when they took them to a 4-3 final score there, but they ended up losing that set 2-0. They come into this one against Brutal Fissure in week 2. They get taken to game 3, and they've been showing signs of slowing down. I've heard there's been lag issues, but really at this point in time, that's just a part of the game when you're playing in an online tournament or an online league where you're not playing in person the entire time. It sucks. No one wants it to happen to them, but it happens to the best of us. Cyclone right now, they used the sub as well. It's Tito came in for the rain. I don't know what happened there. I don't know the reason behind that. They did beat Brutal Fissure, and that's a plus for them as well. Brutal Fissure slowly creeping up in the rankings as well as the competitiveness of the teams. I think PS4 EU is actually the closest contested when it comes to those top 3 teams there, excluding YCTG right now. They were up there at one point, but not so much anymore. But just one thing to point out, the Centurio, Don Canolo, and Itique from Cyclone, that is number 1, number 2, and number 3 in the league for most deaths. So, if they can consolidate that and maybe bring it down a little bit, work on their positioning, focus fire a little bit more, help each other, maybe even, talk to their support players, see if there's anything they can change up in their play styles to help them get back up there in the power rankings. Still a top team, still the best team to contend with Flashpoint in their region right now. Brutal Fissure slowly creeping up. At number 8 this week, moving up despite losing, they lost to Vexed. It's Zimmerframe. They moved up. They beat OTP. They lost to Vexed. They had some roster swaps. I know they brought in Hamish and Sibs EU back into their starting lineup. I know they were subbed for in the first week with It's Whitey and Bizjob. But, maybe they've got to get their chemistry back, or maybe the subs need to come back into play. I don't know. That's their decision. But they played really strong in week 1. They played pretty well in week 2, but they're going up against Vexed early on in the season. That's always tough for any opponent when trying to get your team chemistry and your team composition together. At number 9 is Brutal Fissure, and like I said before, these guys have been creeping up. They lost Itique to Cyclone, so they had to get someone on the roster before qualifiers started. No one really knew who they were going to pick up, and the free agent pool was a little thin at the moment, but they did end up picking Atomic AMK, and that's probably the best thing that this team has ever done, roster-wise. This guy has been carrying their team through this season already. Week 2, he leads the league with the most kills, 81. He's got the highest amount of damage for a single individual player. He has one of the top 3 highest averaging damages per game. Especially, it's a little low considering they've had 5 games this season already, 2-0 in the first week. They lost 1-2, but they were taken in that third game. And he's got a 296 KD, leading his team with that. It's just Atomic AMK loading up the damage. He had over 379,000 damage himself in week 2 in 3 games. That's a little average of 131,000 per game so far. So he's really carrying that team. He's averaging about 16 kills a game, and he's got some pretty low deaths as well. So Brutal Fissure moving up. At number 10 is Radiant Esports. Now, they did win this week. They got taken to Game 3 by OTP. OTP finally has what they think will be their finalized roster. We know Ninja Zen left and Naiju is back, but going back to Radiant Esports, they looked like the top contender to take out Vexed at one point in the qualifiers. Then they kind of fell off. Then they got beat 2-0 by Vexed in the first week of the PCL. But here it seems like they've put things together. You have Smutney, Fanatics, Wildcard, Potent, and Kings all working together. I think that they found some form of chemistry and some form of companionship to work together more as a team instead of just a bunch of guys playing on a team together. So they've been doing really well as of this week. Potent putting up huge numbers on the DPS board. Smutney, one of the best healers in the league right now, stats wise. And then you have Kings, who is in the top 5 for most kills. He's got 54, and he's just putting up some huge numbers out there on the DPS as well. The backbone of that team, I would have to say, is shared between Smutney and Kings, with a little Potent on the side. So that's Radiant Esports at number 10 this week. At number 11 is Happy Battle Cats. They went all the way from, I believe it was 16th last week to 11th this week. So the teams below them have been falling off as of lately, but Happy Battle Cats took a team like Curse These Hands, who is supposed to be Onslaught's biggest problem right now, to a Game 3, and that was just awesome. They replaced, I believe it was, they took out Bert's Bee's Knees out of the roster, put in their sub Sword of Avawal, and he played spectacular for his role as well. They moved him to the support role, and Genos R34 now moves to the DPS position this week, and he put up some huge numbers actually. He had 8 kills in the first week when he was playing, 8 kills total in 2 games against Onslaught. When he's playing that support role, he steps into that DPS role and he instantly ups it by 20. He comes out with 28 kills. He had 40 assists this week. He had over 240,000 damage, and he still had over 117,000 healing as well. He went from a 0.94 KD in week 1 to a 2.07 here in week 2. So he really stepped it up, moved into a more comfortable role, it seems, and he helped his team take a team like Curse These Hands to Game 3. Unfortunately, they did not. They weren't able to win that, but tough matchup there. But they regrouped, changed their roster a little bit. I feel confident that they can put up a good fight against the Baldy Bunch in week 3. Number 12 this week is OTP. Now, they did make a roster change. Badge Tiger is still in there. Niju makes his return. He didn't play in week 1. LZ Legends makes his return as well. He played in week 1, and he actually is the Xbox leader for deaths. So maybe that could be an issue they can address as well. But they bring in Westside and Jay Tylo, and these guys come in, they do their jobs, and they weren't able to pull the win out against Radiant, but they did take them to game 3, and I think that's a big move, especially when you bring in Westside and Jay Tylo, who were on other rosters before this, and then after the PCL roster locks were done, they brought in those two to help the roster. I think that's a big move for them. I think Westside and Jay Tylo continuing to work with this team will be able to put in the necessary grind and be able to create something special with this team here, and I hope that OTP can rise back, because they were the number 2 team against Vex at one point in time, not too long ago. They had the best tank duo with Niju and Ninja Zen, so hopefully they'll be able to bring that back and see if they can, Niju can pick up Tylo or Westside as his duo and be able to bring the glory days back to OTP. Although they weren't that far away. And number 13 is the Baldy Bunch. You may know them as XX Vampire Lord 64. So in week 1, they had Flavor Fear filling in for Styles. This week, Styles makes his return, or his debut in the league, but his return to the starting roster. And Styles, that's a big ups from Flavor Fear. Flavor Fear, great player, but Styles stepping into that main frontline position just brings the team up a little bit. Now, they were 2-0'd, however, by Onslaught, but they also took Kenichi out of that starting lineup and brought in SoldierBot. And SoldierBot's a great player, don't get me wrong. Hilltime's leading this team right now in most of the stats, but before that, Kenichi was putting up some big numbers. He did have the most kills in week 1. He had one of the best KDs on the team, and he almost had 300,000 damage in week 1, and he was playing spectacularly. I don't know if that was they thought he wasn't playing as well, or maybe they had some other issues behind the scenes, but I'm hoping to see Kenichi back in that lineup here soon, maybe as a sub for a map or two. Against certain teams on certain maps. I know he likes to play the hit scans, preferably the Strix. So I just want to see him utilized and see what they have in store for him, if they have anything in store for him in the near future. But that's number 13, the Baldy Bunch. At number 14 this week is YCTG. I feel like they made a little bit of improvement from week 1 to week 2. Not that big of an improvement, however, to move them up any further than what I have. One of the biggest things that I see with this team is they're dying a lot and they're not killing anything that much. They average about 23 kills a game. And that's exceptionally low considering how long their games averagely go. If you look at a team like Flashpoint, they're averaging around 50 to 60 kills as a team per game, and they're finishing their matches in 8 minutes. So that is, 23 kills a game for a 15, 20-minute match is really low, and you got to be able to focus your targets together, got to be able to call them out, and hopefully they'll be able to adjust and adapt to things like that and be able to move back up. And maybe we'll see the YCTG that beat the Flashpoint roster in week 1 of the qualifiers again sometime soon. At number 15 is Warm Up. Speaking of kills as a team, they are averaging 10 kills a game, but 34 deaths a game. Now you can see that they know what they're doing when it comes to not staggering or anything like that. They're not necessarily feeding. It just seems like they're losing on those team battles. Sorrow has left the team, apparently, according to multiple reports. And Vicious KDR was nowhere to be seen on the roster in week 2, so some subs had to come in. Topo Justice stepped in, and so did Guiba. So they stepped in. Guiba able to get 4 kills in the 2 games where they were 2-0'd by Oni Channers. Topo came out with 5. And after 2 weeks, Geppetto's and TKO are only leading with 13 and 10. TKO is leading the team with 41 deaths. So, the KDs are really low. The damage numbers are pretty low. And the kills are low. 10 kills per game for an entire team. Either the game's happening really fast or you guys are losing a lot of team fights. They went up against Oni Channers, got 2-0. They went up against Elevate, got 2-0. Next week they go up against Game Over. Maybe that'll give them some, and for Game Over as well, maybe that will give them some time to settle down, adjust, try some things, see what works, see what doesn't work against a team more or so in the same caliber as them right now. At number 16 is Game Over. We know they pulled out the triple support their first game of the PCL in week 1, so that was interesting to watch. They still double support the next game after that. This week they go up against Elevate and they get dominated, of course, because Elevate is just dominating everyone right now. But Game Over, one of the lowest damaged, one of the lowest teams they're putting out some of the lowest damage amongst all teams. I couldn't really figure out how to say that correctly there for a second. They only have about 715,000 damage as a team through 4 games. That's not high at all. There's teams that are breaking 2 million right now with only 4 games played as well. So they've got to be able to do some damage numbers. And as a matter of fact, speaking of that, they have done something to change that. From week 1 to week 2, they picked up a new roster spot from Galaxy, who was formerly on Thomas and Friends. I think this could help the problem with the damage numbers. This could help with the kills as well. He's a great player. He's a great damage, especially blaster. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what he can do. He comes in, and he had a positive KD in his debut in the PCL with the Game Over roster. He went 9-8-7 with a 1.42 KD. So he put up some fairly decent numbers. The team's only averaging 9.3 kills a game. That's even lower than warm-up at the moment. So warm-up, Game Over, 15 and 16 in the power rankings. But again, they go up against each other in week 3. So that'll be an interesting matchup to see who comes out on top of that and how both teams feel after that match instead of going up against powerhouses such as Oni Channers or Elevate so quickly. All right, that's week 2's PCL Console Corner Power Rankings. My name is Blue. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know any of your feedback, your comments, or who you think is the best teams in the PCL right now across Xbox, PS4, EU, and NA. Just let me know in the comments below. I try my best to read them all, and I try my best to answer any questions or concerns, or even comment on comments. I love interacting with you guys. I love this community. I love Console Paladins. And don't forget to listen to the podcasts on this channel as well. Those come out every Friday. Thursdays are the live show on my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/realBluTV. Same name as the YouTube channel, actually. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Same name as well, @realBluTV. That's REALBLUTV. Have a good one, guys, and see you next week with next week's Power Rankings.